All right, everybody, welcome to the Axelar Ecosystem Startup Funding Program, AMA. I'm joined by Sergey Gorbunov, co-founder of Axelar. My name's Galen, content lead at Axelar. Sergey, how you doing?
Hey everyone, I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. Looking forward to a little bit of the holidays coming up, but I'm excited about this news that we announced this week and what it means for 2023. Let's talk about it briefly. What is the Axelar Ecosystem Startup Funding Program?
Yeah, so on a high level, what we're trying to do is really create an ecosystem of developers that are excited to build for the interchain, right? So over the last year, I think we've seen, a lot of different movements across different layer one ecosystems, right? So you can build, on Terra, Solana, Avalanche, and so on and so forth. One day, one ecosystem goes down, other ecosystem kind of goes up. And I think that's creating really a lot of frustration for developers and unfortunate user experiences as a result, right? So, and I think what we're really trying to do with Axelar and the startup program is to pave the way for interchain applications to be built, right? So the idea is that, you no longer need to build on a single chain. You can really build a chain agnostic application that spans the whole of Web3. Now, to do that, of course, you have to have, an idea, you have to have technical resources, you have to have a team, and you have to have funding, right? The Axelar Startup Program is really one of the pillars that would allow the teams that are building for this interchain to access capital that is available from the investors that are interested to fund the next generation of Web3 applications that really span the whole of Web3. So you can, when you're ready, if you need access to any of the capitals, then you can go through this program, and the team will help you get connected with the right investors that are interested to build for the future of Web3. So it's kind of as simple as that.
Let's talk about the future of Web3 for a minute, because I think a lot of people right now, I mean, I personally, I'm a little bit old school. I read the print edition of the Wall Street Journal every day, and Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX is on the front page of the Wall Street Journal every day of the week. This sort of negative news cycle continues, and I think a lot of people feel, some questions, right? What are we doing? Why are we here? Is any of this even worth it? Let's just talk about kind of broadly the vision of what kind of startups are exciting right now or inspiring. Like where can we be looking for opportunities to look ahead to the future of Web3 to 2023 and think about, what kinds of projects should we be building, should we be focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably important just to take a step back and think about why Web3 and like what are the fundamental properties that it's supposed to provide, right? What is it that you cannot really achieve with other software stacks? And I think the first one that we see over and over again is the notion of trust, right? The problem with traditional systems, traditional deployments, in cloud environments or on-premise environments and so on and so forth, is that it's very hard to establish these notions of trust, right? And that's why Web3 was started. That's why blockchain was started. And the first application where you need trust, of course, are payments or transactions, right? How do you transact across borders in a secure and trusted way? And unfortunately, with the rise of centralized players on top of these decentralized platforms, this premise of trust has been completely lost, right? So if you are deploying centralized solution, whether or not it's an exchange or borrowing and lending application, anything else you can think of, if you are not building it in a Web3 native way, you could compromise the trust, right? And you could falsify information, you can manipulate information. Nothing prevents you from doing that, whether or not it's maliciously or accidentally, right? And the whole Web3 and the blockchain was designed to solve these issues, right? To provide a trust at the core. And it's sort of a fundamental property that we need as we, scale the economies, as we go global, as we have people that want to transact across different geographical, political regions. Um, and I think we need to go back, right, with this notion of what are the applications and what are the use cases that actually require trust at the core to be globally scalable. And yes, there are arguments like, in particular geographic regions like North America or something like that, you have banking and you can trust them and so on and so forth. I mean, that's really not the point. I think the point is that how do you build globally scalable applications that have, those properties at the core and that cannot be governed by, a single jurisdiction, but they really have to be governed by open systems, right? And so I think that's incredibly important. And I think the second, property that I think Web3 kind of fundamentally provides that people are sort of forgetting it sometimes is really a new developer environment, right? For developers to actually come in and build and solve, this issues from the ground up. It has fundamental properties like, combination of runtime, compute and storage in a single unit, right? So you can deploy a smart contract on a blockchain. The smart contract has access to, a database behind the scenes. It has a compute environment, and it also has distribution environment where you can have users that immediately access to your application. And you have the trust properties, of course, on the back end of this. So if you list these properties, then you can go back and say what applications that I can solve, and what are the applications that I can solve much easier when these properties are all baked into one runtime environment, right? You'll find that a lot of traditional software deployments, like in the cloud, they don't have those properties. So you fundamentally will need to stitch many more things together to get to the same result, right? And so I think people don't quite appreciate this because today it's not fully there yet. There's still a lot of infrastructure work to be done. There's still a lot of pieces that have to be built, but that's the ultimate goal, right? You can take your application, you can deploy in these environments, you can have trust, compute, storage, distribution all in one. And I think that's super exciting. That's really powerful. So yeah, kind of going back to your question, what is the future of Web3? I think that is the future, and I think we have to go back to the basics and work on it.
I think it's the kind of vision we all need to be thinking about and articulating now more than ever. And I think also worth emphasizing, alongside this sort of, as I would say, like, don't be evil versus can't be evil, and the kind of starting principles, and then, thinking about what the use cases are that flow from that. Also thinking about user onboarding, and I think that's an important piece when you think about building interchain. If your model is, well, you need to adopt my chain in order and adopt my token and go through the steps it takes to onboard in that way, and that sort of way that we're all used to in the current iteration of Web3. I don't think that's as you said, Sergey, a globally scalable application built for mass adoption. Would you agree?
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, so I think that's, in a nutshell, in a way, this is the kind of projects we're looking for in the Axelar ecosystem startup funding program. So let's I want to make some time for questions and just open it up, and I'm sort of encourage people to kind of raise their hands if they have a question they want to ask, and we'll try to promote you up onto the stage and get your question answered. I think in terms of the program, let's just talk a little bit about the kind of projects that we have seen. I think we've seen some projects that are checking some of the boxes we're talking about here. And certainly, have seen some of the investors in Axelar and in the Axelar ecosystem interested in those projects. Talk a little bit about that and kind of how that led to the genesis of this funding program.
Yeah, so the genesis, I think, of the funding program was that we ran a grants program, right, over the last quarter with a cohort of, I think, about 20 plus teams. Many of the teams were incredibly high quality. They had great ideas, great execution, and we're really thinking for this future of interchain, right, and building kind of a globally scalable applications. A number of the teams have gone on and raised their own funding, right? It's been really great to see them. I think we had great reception from the investors that were looking at some of the teams, and looking to participate in some of their funding rounds. So that was really great to see. And then we ask ourselves, what can we do to simplify it even further for the teams that are ready to be fundraising, to streamline the process, right? And so that was really what led to the development of this ecosystem funding program. The idea is that if you go through various programs around Axelar, like grants, like Accelerator, Longhash is running Accelerator, just directly engaging with us and building on top of the network. If you need funding, if you need communication, if you need the preparation work, we can help you with those things, right? And the investors will still be making kind of their own decisions at the end of the day and deciding which projects to invest in, but we can help you streamline some of those connections. We can help you streamline some of the communication, and help you prepare for that process. So I view it as the next, step in the startup project development. Once you know what you're doing, once you bootstrap through the grants or accelerators or other programs, once you're ready to go and actually build a team or a larger team behind your project, you do need capital, and the program is just meant to streamline this communication from these top of the funnels to the investors that are interested for funding the interchain.
It's been impressive to see the way the technical team at Axelar has been able to support some of the idea stage projects, get them to a point where they are ready to go out and raise funding. And I think we've seen success there with some of those projects getting out, raising capital, and getting off the ground in that way. In some ways, I think it speaks to like the type of flow that we see, that Axelar sees coming through the ecosystem. It is projects that have that ambition of global reach and really developers that want to build on a fully decentralized and permissionless stack, and not be sort of be able to choose their development environment, but not be bound to sort of one ecosystem, one token, one kind of onboarding process, but be able to welcome users of any kind. I think it's in some ways it's like a natural outgrowth of the way of the kind of projects that Axelar naturally attracts. Thoughts quickly on the kind of funding environment that we're seeing right now in general, Sergey. I'm curious kind of to know where you think investment in venture capital investment in Web3 is what it's gonna look like in 2023. Obviously, the climate right now very uncertain. What's the outlook, and what should projects be thinking about if they're out trying to raise capital?
I mean, I think for the projects raising capital, 2023 still, probably will have enough capital. I think from what I understand, there's still quite a lot of money available from the investors that have been raising their own rounds, from the LPs, right, throughout the last year, throughout the bull cycle. So there is still funding available. There is still cash available. That being said, I think especially in the next few months, I think it is going to be rough, not for an availability of cash, but more in the sense that everybody is trying to see where things settle, right? It has been incredibly volatile couple of months, or especially the last month. So I think everybody's just taking their time making decisions, whether or not it's a funding decision or kind of a the roadmap decision and things like that. So I would expect next few months to continue being that way. There's still a lot of like uncertainty from macroeconomics, right? Like the interest rates being constantly increased in America in particular. So yeah, definitely uncertain, definitely slower. So I do encourage teams, if you are building, look for ways to really think about, how can you bootstrap your project for as long as possible, keep your burn rate low, focus on the tech, talk to as many customers as you can, show real traction, show real progress, and then get ready, get in touch with our team. We can help you kind of streamline some of these communications with investors as well. But you certainly will be harder to raise on like a PowerPoint, right, or just a deck. You will need to have actual progress being made, and a good idea, of course, and a good team, and show some ability of executing. So I encourage people to continue building. I encourage people to look for different ways to bootstrap their projects for as long as possible, whether or not it's grants, accelerators, and other things. Get to this milestone where you have some type of product, prototype, get to a milestone where you talk to 10 to 20 customers, understand that there is real demand for it, and then you can take it from there.
Let's talk about it from the investor side a little bit, and again, just encouraging anyone who's listening to raise your hand if you have a question you want to ask. When you talk about traction, as you just did, Sergey, there's a lot of kind of incentive-based activity, bounty hunting and sort of mercenary activity and yield farming and et cetera, kind of that seems to inflate the amount of activity that's happening in Web3 ecosystems. How do you, as an investor, as somebody who's looking at the space, looking at what projects are interested, whether you're investing your time or you're investing capital or whatever it is you're doing, how do you differentiate between kind of real traction and real use and the sort of the activity that really should be put more into the category of chasing rewards?
I don't think it's too hard to differentiate, real traction versus, short-term pumps. All the data is on chain, right? If you see spikes in activity, if you see kind of transaction volume activity, you can ask, what happened there, right? And there's typically, an answer, right? I added this feature, or I did like this marketing program, right? Or I had this partnership that kind of kicked in, right? And like you can really correlate the data with activities that the projects are doing, and with their business development, and with their marketing initiatives, and so on and so forth. So I don't think it's that hard. I think last year people haven't been really asking those questions because you didn't need to, right? I think going forward people will probably be asking them more and more.
Yeah, makes sense. Got a raised hand here from Wrecked Gang. Wrecked today, stronger tomorrow. Wrecked Gang, you are on stage. What's your question? Wrecked Gang, you are connecting to be on stage. If Twitter Spaces works, you'll be on stage. There you are. Go ahead and unmute and.
Yeah, thanks guys for organizing this, and thanks for starting this program. I'm a big fan and user of Axelar. So Red Gang is a multi-chain NFT project. We use Axelar, or we'll be using Axelar's GMP once it's implemented in the Cosmos, and we're currently using layer 0 on ETH. Apologies about that. But we love Axelar, and we actually built an onboarding platform for people that are on Ethereum to participate in the Cosmos chain. So we built that out. It's all done. It's ready to go. How would I, get funding for that? Or do you think that's a project that would be eligible for funding? And sorry for making it very specific to our project here.
No, I think great question. And yeah, it's great to see Cosmos, I think, in Ethereum being more and more interconnected, right? I certainly think that this kind of a combination and glue of the two stacks, very different stacks as of today, I think is going to continue happening. So it's great to see the smooth onboarding between them. When it comes to the funding and getting engaged, so if you go to axel.network/grant dash program, we should add it to the notes.
Definitely.
Then effectively there is different application forms. So, and there's an application form for the funding program itself. you can apply there, you can describe your project, and then somebody from the team will kind of reach out and learn more about the project and see how we can help. So yeah, you'll be able to find the link through the website, or we'll add it here in the notes as well, and hopefully that will get you started.
Thanks. And last question, does the base of the tech have to use Axelar as the backbone, right? Because our onboarding platform actually does not use Axelar because it's not necessary, but people will be using it to bridge funds afterwards. But the base does not use, kind of the underlying tech. And my question is that still eligible?
I mean, yeah, you can probably, describe and kind of submit how you're planning on using Axelar and what the, use case would be, whether or not it's kind of a merging and the bridging the funds, and then I think we'll have to kind of make a case by case decision, and the team will review. But if you think that you are going to be using Axelar, right, or you are building for interchain, you should certainly kind of apply, and we'll evaluate and take it from there.
Thanks, guys.
And then, Rect, I added a thread about what we're currently talking about. If you scroll through to the bottom, you'll find those links.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, just to clarify, if I understood your question correctly, Rect, I mean, you actually can build. It could be, I guess, possible to build an application on Axelar. It is a layer one, technically speaking. It's built Cosmos SDK, but most projects, sort of tap in and connect to Axelar via to get the kind of interchain connection that they need, right? Whatever that may be. In some cases that is a sort of a bridge type of a thing, and in some cases it's a some cases it's GMP. GMP to Cosmos is something we're looking forward to rolling out in the not too distant future. That's general message passing, which enables arbitrary function calls, arbitrary messages and data of any kind passed between chains. So not just wrapped assets, in other words. So I guess just to kind of generally answer the question about like building, integrating Axelar, like building on Axelar, as it were, versus integrating Axelar via API. I think most people fall into the latter category. Well, I think that's everybody we had. Oh, we got another question here from the audience. Hang on, I'm going to bring in King Julian. King Julian, you are on your way up to the stage. And thanks, Rex. That was a great question. Julian, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me. I had a question. You mentioned general message passing, and I'm currently building something that does need general message passing. I was curious on how Axelar is going to be implementing that, and how we're going to be able to use it, kind of comparing to layer zero's OFT and ONFT contracts that are essentially general message passing. If there's going to be kind of something built around that, and if there's also going to be a push for like the native asset type on something like the native USDC that layer zero has across different chains, if there's going to be something similar on Axelar without needing to actually wrap or do something along those lines.
Yeah, so a couple of things, a general message passing through Axelar is live, right? And it is actually live across many different EVM chains today. So if you go to docs.axelar.dev, you'll be able to see, a lot of EVM chains that are connected. You can see how to use general message passing. There's a lot of examples you can access and things like that. And then, I think what we kind of referred to earlier is that we extended this general message passing between EVM chains and Cosmos chains, which is, going to be pretty exciting. It'll be an upgrade in the, in Q1 that will go live on the network as well. In the examples, you can actually see a lot of token related, like chain agnostic interchain tokens being deployed, and you can find, a way to deploy your own interchain token across all the chains that we support. There's like an online chain, NFT examples and things like that. So all of that you can build on top of general message passing today. And there's like robust scanner like axelarscan.io that gives you full traceability of your transactions, gas services, so you can pay from the source chain and things like that. So all of that is live. All of that is based on the Axelar, decentralized network. You're not relying on kind of a centralized protocols underneath it, and you can use this today. And back to your second point, there is actually, we announced a partnership with Circle about a month ago for this primitive called composable USDC, and we should link it to the show notes as well. But the idea is that we're composing kind of a Circle USDC bridging functionalities and like the native USDC with Axelar general message passing, so you can use it as a building block to compose DeFi applications across the stack. And projects like Squid that are in the testnet right now are actually leveraging kind of a USDC by Axelar right now with the general message passing, but use it as a routing asset across different ecosystems. When this composable USDC goes live, it will be kind of a native USDC that you'll be able to route with a combination of Circle and Axelar general message passing, and you can build it. So yeah, I encourage you to check that out. There is a blog at the Circle website, and we should link it here as well in the show notes.
Definitely.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you, Sergey. That was helpful. I guess just a follow-up question on the grant program and the funding program. Kind of what type of projects are you looking for right now? And I'm actually structuring the bid right now, or the ask, or filling out all the forms. So I'm just trying to get a better understanding on the type of project or the type of stage you're looking for, and the type of information that you'd kind of want to go after right now.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of projects, I think we really want to leave it to you, right? And like, I think imagination is the limit when you have general message passing on the network. And so, we've seen all kinds of projects from doing, wallets to messaging and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think we'll review projects with all kinds of ideas. In terms of stages of projects or where they need to be, again, we are trying to structure different programs for different stages of the project. So there is a grants program which is for super early teams that need some type of quick and easy capital to just get started. There is accelerator program by Lone Hash that's running a cohort now, which is for slightly later stage projects, but still not quite fully there yet to go and raise like their full rounds. But they're actively working with the teams as well to help them, and then there is the ecosystem kind of a funding program, which is for the projects that have gone through this bootstrapping phase a little bit, know what they're doing, and ready to go and fundraise with the investors. So you can apply for either one of them depending on your stage, and then the teams will kind of get in touch and try to help you as much as we can.
Great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, and I would just like point out, we started out talking about what makes Web3 exciting, and like that general message passing ability to compose and integrate any function, to call any function across any chain on Web3. That's a kind of integration you just can't achieve in a sort of a Web2 walled garden type of world. I think that's exactly the kind of thing that's getting developers excited about building here. I think that's all we have time for. I know there's a couple more questions. We're a couple minutes over time already, so want to keep this short and crisp, but certainly encourage anybody who's coming in with questions and hasn't had them answered here to get in touch. We mentioned the grant program page, which includes information about the ecosystem funding program. That is linked in the thread below. We'll also make sure to link some of the other relevant information that we've discussed here. But questions aren't answered, get in touch with the team, join us on Discord. And Sergey, thanks very much for doing this. This has been great.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining.
See you, everybody.